as we start to dive into this, I'm going to start with the most basic. So we get a request, we start our day. So as we're starting our day, how are we going to determine what we need to work on first? So within here, I can come to my email and I can click on my little Copilot ribbon. So I have the new version of Outlook, so that may look a little bit different. And I also like dark mode. So if my email looks completely different than yours, just know that those are some settings that I have. And I'm going to go to this Copilot ribbon. And in this Copilot ribbon, I'm a recruiter, I'm an HR generalist, I'm a director of HR, I'm a training manager, I'm all the different things. And I recall earlier this week or last week that I had a hiring manager send me an email, because this is real life, right? You get an email and you're like, oh my gosh, I've got to get working on that today. Today is that, but I don't know where the email is. You can ask Copilot to summarize your email. So we're going to summarize my email since last Monday and prioritize task for me. So it's going to go through and it's going to scrub my email. I want to touch on one of the things that was brought up earlier was security, being integrated and collaborating with multiple clients, having access potentially to all these different database systems. Copilot, there is actually an assessment, a security assessment that our team would help you implement so we can work directly with you. There's about 100 different APIs that Copilot can directly connect with through connectors. And it can extract information from your ATS or QuickBooks or these different platforms and use that as part of the resource, unlike ChatGPT or some of those other bots where they're strictly looking at information that's out in the web. Where Copilot is significantly different is that it can collaborate with your internal proprietary systems through connectors. So starting with that, I ask it to summarize my email, and here's all these different things. So it says that I need to work on interview coordination. I need to work on a health point project, financing overview, activity updates, Mayfly leasing. So there's some different things, but that's not quite what I was looking for. I was like, I remember there was some request, help me find the email about recruiting. This is actually really cool. I can show you. You don't have to be able to spell. It will actually figure it out for me. It's like, oh, okay, I'll find that. And it adjusts it for me. So it knows that I have confirmed events. I have all these different things. And I have an email from Misty. Let's see here. So it's about prompting. And so what I'm looking for is help me find the email Misty asking for field engineer. So about the prompting, I wanted to kind of show that series of prompts because each one, as you can see, is going to show me completely different information. So sometimes, because that's one of the responses that we hear from customers and clients, different people that are using Copilot, they're like, well, I got it, but I can't make it do all the things that you were doing. Well, it's about prompting. So I asked 3 different questions in that prompt to analyze my email, and it did 3 different things. So the very first one, it actually went through all of my emails since last Monday, and it made a priority list based on what it thinks I should be working on. Second, help me find the email about recruiting. Well, there's several emails in my inbox about recruiting. So it didn't know which one. So it's going to bring up all of it. And then when I got really specific, help me find the email about the field engineer. Now it brings that up and it says, here it is. I can actually click on this and it's going to reference that document for me and takes me to the actual email. So this is a really neat feature that not only does it scrub your email, summarize the details, but then it gives you a direct link to go to the email. So I'm going to go into this and I see this is that email. Misty needs a new field service engineer, wants me to get it posted, not sure the pay range. Thanks so much. Okay, that's not an uncommon request in the HR recruiting staffing world that we get a request for that. So I know I need to work on this and I need to develop a job description. So if I have never worked on this job description before, and my hiring manager also doesn't know what the pay range is, then I can make one up. So I'm going to open up a Word document. And this is where the power of Chat of Copilot and ChatGPT kind of marry and come together. So it's really neat because Copilot does use the technology of ChatGPT in the back office combined with other systems. I've got the Copilot window open, but I want to show you the difference of these two windows because they do actually function differently. So my side Copilot bar, this is, I could say, help me draft a job description for a field engineer position in IT, Greene, IS, located in Seattle, Washington. So I could say that, and it's going to go and it's going to capture information out from the web. Because I specifically told it Greene IS in Washington, it should go find some information from the web and bring that in about Greene IS. So we'll see what it finds. So there it goes. So it has produced a job description. It is saying this is a field engineer IT, someone to help grow. It's going to use language that is similar to what we have in our website. So it can go out and see if we have job postings, information about Greene IS. It uses the about page. It can go and find all that detail and bring it back in. It's also scrubbing thousands of job descriptions, probably millions of job descriptions that are all over the web for that title, and then condensing that information to create this job description. So I have this and I can read through this and be like, I think this is good, but I'm not sure it's the information. And if I copy this and I paste it over here, it's not going to be as formatted. It's here. I still had to maybe do some cleanup, all those kind of things. So how does it look different if I use ChatGPT over here? So if I draft with Copilot, I can ask it to do the same thing, and I'll show you how this feature works. So help me create a job description for a field engineer in IT at Greene IS. And I'm going to actually go ahead and give it the website, include compensation ranges for the market. Okay, so I'm going to tell it to do that, and I'm going to say generate. Very similar task. It's just going to display the information a little differently. So it starts to format it so you can kind of break it down. Some people don't like to have to scroll. They want to see it on the actual document. So that's the advantage of that. So here's my job description. Here's a how to apply. It gave me a job pay range, so somewhere between 70 and 90K in the Seattle market for this role. Retirement plans, benefits, all these kind of things. So I can say that I like that. Maybe that's great, but maybe I need to say, make it shorter because it's too long. So I can actually give it some refining information there. So it's going to go through. Let's see if it gets it almost to one page. So I can change my margins and that would make it a little smaller. So that's just some features that you could do. You have it here, and maybe you could say use emojis. So you can tell it to do different things, see what happens with that. Maybe it's a social media post. Maybe you're trying to change up the way that your job descriptions look. So you can do something like that and it will do it for you. It takes context. So troubleshoot, resolve hardware. It puts a picture of a little computer. Collaborate with team on IT projects, and it has a little handshake. So it has different things, and I can say keep it. And now it's completely formatted. It even used headers, body text. So it changes the way it formats it through the document. So this may be fantastic, exactly what I want. I'm ready to rock and roll. So I've got to get this posted, right? So I can say, help me create a social media post to recruit for this job on LinkedIn. Now it's going to use the context of this job description, and it's going to make me a social media post that I can now put this link with. Because, sometimes finding the words, it's like, what you want to say, but just starting is a challenge because there's 9 million things pinging in your brain. Because HR, recruiting, training, all these things, that's what happens. We're pulled in so many directions. So I can actually take this, and again, you see that it creates emojis, it has all this, but I could say, make this more professional and shorter for LinkedIn. And it's going to change this. So it's probably going to remove the emojis because I asked it to become professional. No, it did keep them. So, and I can say remove or lessen the emojis. So you can keep it remembers. So again, the point of me showing these different prompts, because I can ask it with the smart prompt to begin with, but if I continue to adjust, it's comprehensive. It's inclusive of all that history, and it's going to keep taking all that and adjusting as we go along. So now I've got a social media post, I've got a job description, so now I can get ready to post this. So if I go out to my social channels, throw it out there, I've got all the candidates coming in. Now I'm ready for an interview and I've got applicants. So I've never recruited for this position before. I don't know where to even begin, how to start, what do I need to say, all those things. So now I can say, help or draft 10 interview questions that help me qualify a candidate for this role. So now it's going to bring me 10 interview questions based on this job description for me to validate information. So there's my 10 questions. Can you describe your experience with installing and configuring IT hardware? How do you approach troubleshooting? How do you ensure compliance with industry standards in your work? So very specifically, this can help if you have a new recruiter on your team, if you have just a new position, you've never worked on it before, so you're not super familiar. You could say, help me with responses to show a great response and a unqualified. So we can look at from a training perspective and just a knowledge, right? Whenever we're recruiting, it's up to us as the recruiter to understand enough about the role to qualify a candidate that's sitting across from us. So how do we determine if what their responses are in line with what is a qualified candidate? You can ask ChatGPT and it's going to give you some options. So from a training perspective, literally you can use this to develop materials and mock interviews and different things so that you can start to tailor these and the experience for each person in each position. So now I can say, okay, so a great candidate that would respond to this is going to say something along the lines that they have over 5 years of experience, they've done all this, they're in a previous role, proficient using all these tools. An unqualified response is going to be like, I have some experience, but I haven't done much with hardware. I usually ask for help when it comes to configuring. So again, it's just an example, gives us awareness. So I've got my job description created. I have my social media channels. I have my interview script. Now I'm ready to start looking at candidates. And so when I pull up a resume, so I'm just, and for the record, literally you can use ChatGPT for anything. So just watch this. For example purposes, I want to show you create a resume for a field engineer, highlighting about 3 years of experience and include education and certifications, right? So I can actually use Copilot to draft a resume. So for the example and purpose of this demonstration, I can literally just have it do this. Rather than going and finding a resume or different things, I can just use this one. So here's a resume, and now I need to interview this candidate. I can interview the candidate using my interview questions that I've prompted from the other screen and produce this. So now I'm doing the interview. I've completed it. I had a great candidate and I had one that I'm not so sure about. They may be qualified, they may not be qualified. So I need to do some digging. Well, when we do our interview, if you have the business premium Teams, you can of course record and it's going to produce a transcript. So what does that look like? I'm going to show, and just know that when we did these demos that it was Halloween. And so we are dressed up in costume. So please disregard.
Judge.
So yeah, so we used the Sanderson sisters, and I was Sarah Sanderson with a wig. I was not the qualified candidate in this situation. So we did the interview, and the reason I wanted to pull this up is I wanted to show you all stream. So when we record videos in Teams, it populates over to Teams. So here it is. I've got my information. I have my transcript because we recorded this. Copilot can come in and recap this whole interview. Now, I'm just going to pause there because that in itself like made my head go, wait, what? It can recap my whole interview on my behalf, because how often in an interview are you going through all of the different things and they start talking about something and you're writing all your notes, or you're trying to jot down as much as you can, but then you miss something, but now they're already giving you some more information that's really good. And you're like, and then you keep going and you're going to try to recap it all later, right? Well, we end up missing something. Copilot doesn't miss a beat. It captures everything and then it recaps it for us. So in addition, I can also look at speaking points. I can see when the person was speaking. I can see all kinds of information within here. So I'm going to go with Copilot and I'm going to say recap the meeting. And it gives me these prompts, and I think I already did that actually. So here's my recap. It literally tells me at what minute in the video. So you can have that information played back for you. Now I can say, list the action items from that interview. I think that they were a qualified candidate. I don't know. I don't remember, but couldn't find the information. Oh, because there's not action items. It's an interview. So it's smart enough to know we didn't have anything from there. But I'm going to take the transcript and I can copy this transcript. I'm going to download it as a Word document. And here it comes. So now I've got a transcript. There it is. So I can use that, or I can go back to Teams, not Teams. I can go back to Stream, and I could just take this summary right here. Like this right here is a summary of everything in this interview, and it's concise. So I'm actually going to replace the interview notes, the interview transcript, I should say, with the recap that Copilot provided for me. So here it's saying that I asked questions, we did all the things back and forth, and it brought me to here. Now I can say, Copilot, go to PowerPoint, and I'm going to say, help me create, let me save it real quick. So you do have to save stuff into the cloud for you to be able to transfer and use documents, but I can use interchanging documents throughout, and Copilot can pick those up, use the information, analyze it, read it, and then use it to produce a document. So I'm going to use this interview script, and I've got it saved, but I need to upload it to the cloud. So I'm going to put it out there. So now it's saved in my cloud location. So I can now get a link to this document. There it is. My link is copied. So now I'm going to go into my PowerPoint and I'm going to say craft slides to highlight information of this file. There we go. I'm going to say of this interview. So again, we play around with the prompts, and sometimes within Copilot, I may say that and it's like, that's not going to work for me. And it will say, I'm sorry, I can't help you. So if you just change the prompt, then it will start to do the different things. But as you can see, it's reading this document, it's creating a presentation, and giving an interview conclusion. So now it's going to produce our slides, and there we go. So if you have a hiring manager and they're really particular about the way they want to see your interview notes, or a client wants to see interview notes in a certain way, I can say, use this transcript, summarize, put it in a PowerPoint presentation, and I now have a total of 11 slides that is showing this person's experience. Now, I can come into Designer and I can change it up. I can tailor it, make it my own. I can still go through the design features and I can change the format of the slides however I want to, whatever I want to make it tailored for the output of whoever needs it. So again, great feature. You can use the design. These are all things that are available typically in your standard PowerPoint, but it just created this literally in like 30 seconds. So let's click through. What does it say? So this is introduction. So Misty asked about experience. This was me being interviewed. So I mentioned hearing about it, but I have not done any migrations. So it's not starting off to a good start. And then you can see as it goes through, I casually call help when faced with complex issues, like all these things. But as you can see, it's also using context of the script and applying appropriate photos in the document. So customer satisfaction, it knows that I'm, talking about customers and different things. So it does pick up on the context, applies appropriate filters and settings and images throughout the presentation. So now I can send it off to the hiring manager, figure out if they want to make a hire. Yay, we'll call it a day. It's great. Now I need to make an offer. So now when I prepare to make an offer.
Before you do that, can I just call to, we talked about being a partner for all of the Microsoft. So you think about this being an add-on. We've already looked at how it works in Outlook. We've already looked at how it works in Word. And I don't know anybody, if y'all have worked in, what's the thing you were just in the presentation? My mind just went.
Oh, PowerPoint. Yeah.
But the fact that you can literally tell this thing to create a presentation, y'all, like that was the one that like sent me over the edge, that it can literally create a PowerPoint from anything that you give it. You don't have to think about how to word anything. You don't have to think about the images. It literally will create whatever PowerPoint you need it to.
Yes. Yeah. So think about board meetings. You have, your quarterly QBRs, any of those kind of things. And if you're responsible for producing 4 slides, if I have a template, then I can say, using this template, please create this slide. So when you start integrating it with your in-house systems, it becomes even more powerful. So that's a great call out. And yes, you can apply filters and automation because Copilot is a 365 tool. You can coordinate it to use within like Power Automate. You can start creating significant automation codes, different things. You can have it go pull information from QuickBooks, do a data dump, then process that information. It's very powerful, like the things that you can do. So great call out. And I am going to show Excel, so that will be the next thing. So I just want to show kind of, again, the power living in the world that we're in. Help create an offer letter that fulfills any compliance requirements in Washington. And let's see, help create an offer letter that fulfills any compliance requirements in Washington for the field engineer role. All right, so I'm going to say generate. And so I'm not as familiar with Washington requirements. I don't know if there are compliance regulations that need to be in an offer letter. So if I ask it to give me that information, it at least starts me with the draft. And now I have something that I can, at minimum, go and speak with my legal counsel. If we're contracting that phone call out, we don't have an in-house legal person. So if we're contracting that out as an HR person or a director of HR or a training manager or fill in the blank, there's a cost to that. It's pretty significant usually when we're reaching out to an attorney. If I could have a draft and they just proof it for me and say, hey, that looks good, fantastic. I mean, that in itself may pay for the license, because I want everyone to understand the cost of a Copilot license. It is per user. And you do not have to purchase it for your entire organization. Just because everyone has a 365 license, Word, Excel, PowerPoint, all the things, does not mean everyone has to have Copilot. And it is less than $360 a year. So when you think about that consideration, it's like a personal administrative assistant / compliance person / data entry person / marketing assistant / sales assistant, like fill in the blank, and it does all the things. Okay, so off my soapbox because I love it. I've got my offer letter. Here it is. If I wanted to present this to an attorney, I could fill in the information, draft that off, and let them tell me that it's in compliance and ready to send. Got it all done. Now I'm preparing for, because I've gotten all the offers out. Now I need to give some information to my executive team and or board of directors. They want to know, how has recruiting really gone this year? So when I start thinking about that, and this is super, super basic because I didn't want us to get too lost in details of an ATS report. But I'm sure everyone on this call has downloaded an ATS report, who applied for the job. Are they veteran status? EEO information, did they disclose their sex? Did they disclose their race? Did they disclose veteran status? And then, of course, you have like a date of application, and most ATS systems, you might have a field that shows days to interview. So you can kind of see your time to fill ratios, all of those things. You can run all kinds of stats using Copilot. So let's run through what some of that looks like. And I do not have to be, I love Excel, but it's kind of like riding a bike. And if you don't use specific formulas all the time, it's easy to forget what they are. And if you're like me and you go out to Google or whatever, and you try to find the YouTube video that shows you how to set up the video, then you get lost. So I don't want to do that. Can I not just go here? Yes, you can. So let's do this. So Copilot makes it so that you can literally just ask a question. And I could say, I need to see, so I'm going to say, highlight all veterans in red across the whole row. Let's just see if it understands that request, because it's like, I don't want to go through. Now imagine this is a really simple sheet, but if I had hundreds or thousands of rows and I needed to do a special project to highlight all of our veterans that have applied for an EEO report of any kind, a veterans report, I can do that. And I didn't have to think of what the formula is. It just knows. And watch this. It knows. It's not applying it just to that one row. It's applying it to the entire document. So if I even jump down here, it's not going to do it there. And I want to show you why. If I jump down here, it's because it's outside of my table. So that's the one specific thing within Copilot and Excel, is that the information that it's analyzing has to be contained within a data table. So that's why you see these lines here. This is formatted as a table. So it doesn't make the changes here, but anything that you do within the table, it's going to apply the changes because it's applying it to this entire table document. It undoes it. So it knows what I'm doing. It's an amazing feature. But let's say that's not all the information I want to know. I want to know what percentage of applicants are veterans. Are we doing a good job marketing to our veteran applicants and we're getting enough applications in? I'm not sure. That might be a stat that someone asks you for. And I don't have to know the math. I just have to be able to ask the question. So here it is. It's saying, based on this information, 1 out of 4 is 25%. So I can insert the row. Even better, you can see here, it starts showing all these suggested options. Show a suggestion for a formula column. Okay, sure. What have you got, Copilot? So it's going to say, looking at, let's see what it suggested. Interview status check determines the interview status by checking if it's scheduled, matched, or other. And then it made a column. It's going to make a column. So based on they interviewed and a decision, it's saying it's going to create this interview status. I had not deleted that. That was from the last time I did this demo. So I can say insert column, and literally it adds the column, formats everything, has all the details to analyze, have we completed an interview, yes or no? And it's simply looking at, is there a date? And the one that has not had an interview date, it says not completed. This one it knows is in the future. Oh, that one's not in the future. Oh, because it says interview. So it's actually taking context. So it knows that it was scheduled, but it has not been evaluated. So if I change this to say match, it just said completed. It literally changes that fast. So super powerful information. Imagine that you need to run stats and formulas and you need to know like days to fill. Help calculate a days to fill ratio using application and interview date. And I think it might say that it doesn't have all the information, because technically it would have to say who has the offer. But because I told it using those two fields, it's going to give me information. So I can insert a column, and there's my days to fill ratio. And it's really days to interview. I didn't prompt it appropriately for this demo, but days to interview. So I could have that. You could have another one if you had a higher date, then you could have days to fill ratio in that, like 10 seconds.
It is kind of, I know that we've been looking at, all the AI stuff to go with our ATS system, or actually it wouldn't be through them, it would have to be a separate bolt-on, but it is cool and scary at the same time. So
Yes. So on that note, something that the Greene IS team will help with is that we'll partner with Microsoft engineers, and there is a security evaluation, because Copilot, the intention is that it's locked down to your internal programs, and not releasing proprietary information out into the web, one, but two, it can even be locked down based on user profiles. So within your organization, if you have compensation information in your ATS, you may not want some whoever out in the field who has a login to come into Copilot and say, go pull all the compensation data and show me a report. Because you could tell that if you didn't have security permission, but we would help set that up so that security protocols are in place that you could prevent users from being able to access information in error or with malintentions. Great call out. Any other questions or things that you didn't see today that you're like, hey, I really wanted to see this, can it do that?
Just going off of like how we all said that or not us all, but some of us said that we had no prior knowledge of Copilot and things like that. Granted, based off this 40 minutes that you've given here, I'm sure that there's a million things that you could show us in Copilot that we'd be interested to see. But nonetheless, all the information that you gave us today was great, and it is very versatile, and it seems like a very, very beneficial tool to have.
Absolutely. Yes. Thank you.
Great presentation. I used actually Copilot. I was been working on a PowerPoint presentation that I have to give tomorrow. And on revision 3, I actually just sat down with Copilot last night and spoke into Copilot and told it what I wanted it to change. And within about 30 seconds, I had the completed PowerPoint. So it does work. You have to learn, and it has to learn you as well. But I think it's a great tool.
Oh, I love that you shared that. Yeah, that's an accurate way to put it. It learns who you are and you learn about it. And then it really, it is like an extension of your head and your abilities to produce that document. I'm so glad that worked out the way it did for you.
One thing I will say is that when you get an email that says, I hope this email finds you well, if you don't know this, that's probably an AI generated email. And so you can actually tell it, don't put that on the front of my emails anymore, and it'll stop doing it. Or it'll say, don't give my middle name, just put Will if it's a personal email, and it will do those things for you. So it does listen to you, and sometimes you got to check it, just like an administrative assistant, but sometimes it's your for you as well.
True. Yes. And thank you for actually bringing that up, because another feature is, we have some companies, like I use a platform as part of my consulting called Crystal Knows, and it does like a disc profile for team members. I can build like team playbooks and things. And one of the features is that it has this disc profile that goes with the person. Well, I can say, based on this person being an encourager, help me draft a sales pitch email with 3 bullet points or whatever to that person. And it will draft a formatted email that's in the style that type of person likes to receive. So either super direct or with all the emojis and how was your weekend? How are your kids? There are different personalities that message will will go to. So great call out. Anyone else? I see Adrian's comment. Excited to start using it. It is, man, it's such a good tool. The interview recap and the learning materials. I don't know if Liza, if anything to add there, but I think the way that you can use it to create, the training documents, materials, and just scenarios is a really profound portion of it.
Yeah, I think from a sales lens, we build, presentation decks for our customers, recapping our understanding of their needs. So I could see it quickly, like making that slide for me or whatever I meant to.
Absolutely. Yeah, thank you for sharing. So what's next? That concludes our webinar for today. The next steps is that Sam and Misty, myself, number one, we cannot thank you enough for taking time out of your day to join this. But second, we will be following up. Something that's really important is feedback. So I believe everyone is registered, or not registered, but receives a gift card for joining today. So we appreciate you being on the call. But the gift card is a gift with the survey. So we're just asking for that feedback. We really thrive on feedback, so we can customize these to make them useful. How can we help our customers? If it's not something that's in your area today, then the other ask is that you would tell your friends and tell them to reach out to Greene IS if this is something they might have interest in. And then also for your individual teams, if each of you are going back to your team with information to go, hey, look, for less than $350, I could have an entire assistant to crank out all the things by the deadlines that you're giving me. Then let us know. We're happy to help and be a resource to help get it put in place with your team. We could start the assessment process to make sure it's appropriately set up with all the security settings. And so the survey detail, there will be a spot where you can let us know if you'd like to set up that in-house demo. And that's where we, with appropriate disclosures and all the things, we can really dive in as deep as you want us to and look and see, what are your native systems? Could it collaborate? Is there an API already set up with the connectors so that we could easily implement Copilot to work with your systems and extract information on your behalf? So happy to help anyone with those things. Be on the lookout for an email. I will send a transcript of today's call. So that's the huge advantage. We'll recap it. We'll send a recap of this call, the recording. In addition, you'll get some follow-up documents, including a prompt best practice guide and follow-up information so you can reach out to the Greene team. Thank you all so much for joining today, and I hope you have a wonderful day.